this video, we are going to talk about Salesforce development. Salesforce, it's a product. So as a product, Salesforce provide a lot of features and a lot of configurations which we as an admin have to go and do it. But as a product, Salesforce has a bit limitations, which means you cannot do every single thing. You cannot perform all the business requirement just through point and click, right? We do have a lot of Salesforce admin features here in the left hand side in the setup, right? But there are few things based on the project. Sometimes there are many things based on the project which you cannot perform through the standard point and click. The development comes in the picture when you as an admin find the limitations of the admin, like process builder, flows, workflow, limitations of that, and you find that okay, this is something we cannot do through the standard configuration. This is where you as a developer use the Salesforce platform to write code and to extend that feature. Okay, Salesforce provides a platform. This is the platform, right? If you go to this gearbox and if you click on the developer console, this is the platform. The platform name is force.com platform. Nowadays this is called Lightning platform. So in this Lightning platform, you as a developer can write code and can build whatever you want on top of the Salesforce standard feature. While helping many customers, I find that few customers, whatever requirement that they have, we as an admin can actually perform that with just the point and click. Sometimes the customer look for something which most of it is already there in the Sales Cloud or in the Service Cloud feature. But sometime when the customer demands something, for an example, suppose the requirement is whenever a lead gets inserted, we need to check in the other, suppose the customer has another legacy CRM, and in the legacy CRM they already have the new lead data. They might have the new lead data. So we as a Salesforce developer or an admin have to check first, whenever a lead is getting inserted, check if that lead exists in the legacy system or not. If it is, then you can actually throw an error saying this lead exists, or probably you can assign the lead to a duplicate queue, or you can do some other operations. If not, if it doesn't exist in the legacy CRM, then let's say the lead credit score has to be checked, and for that some public API is there, and for that some public APIs are there. So the Salesforce system, before they onboard the lead which is not existing in the legacy CRM, before they onboard that lead, they have to check first whether the lead has a proper credit score or not. If it is, then create. If not, then do something. These kind of customizations, it's a bit difficult if you do this through the point and click approach, right? This is where development comes in the picture. Development is nothing but some backend code that we write as a developer, which will do the automations, right? Another example, let's say I have the lead object. I'm going back to the lead object, and whenever I, let's say, edit any existing lead, whenever I update any existing leads, suppose the moment I click on this update button, the moment I click on edit and save button, okay, I want the legacy system to be notified that hey, legacy system, this is the lead where this particular thing, let's say the phone number has been updated, and the same response that I'm getting from the legacy system is receiving my statement from the Salesforce system and telling, let's say yes, okay, we have noted, or no, we have not noted, this is the error. Based on the response, let's say I have to show something. Now this comes under development, where we as a developer have to write some Apex code which will do these automations in the backend. Okay, Apex is the language through which we do this backend automations. Okay, so more or less development is a method which we use as a Salesforce developer whenever we find that the requirement cannot be fulfilled through the standard approach, through the point and click approach, and that's when we go and write the automations. Okay, this is what the backend automation I have discussed. Now sometime what happened, let's say the customer, when they want to onboard a lead, this is the standard UI where the customer, the end user, can click the new button and create a new lead. Suppose the business want a separate UI. Example, let's say the business want a separate UI. Maybe let's say whenever you click on new lead, okay, new lead, right, immediately it will fetch some data from the legacy CRM, right, legacy system that the business has, and it will immediately populate over here, and then below you will be able to capture the new lead data. Now this is something, if you want to perform, you have to create a custom user interface, right? In the standard user interface, you can hide any fields, you can add any fields, you can add any buttons, you can add any sections, right? These are the sections, right? So maximum we can do this. But if you want to onboard a new UI, if you want to customize that particular UI to the to extend it, you cannot do it, right? Because standard UI has some limitations. This is where you as a developer will go and create a custom user interface. Okay, so when I said development, there are two things, backend and front end. Let's understand the backend and front end. So Salesforce or any software that we use, right? Any, let's say you are using a website, not Salesforce, any website, you see a website UI. Whenever you land into the website homepage, you see some UI stuff, right? That's the front end. Whenever you click on any button, right? Whenever you click on any button, let's say in the backend something happened, right? Let's suppose you're going to the website and there's a button called Contact Us. You're clicking on the Contact Us button and then you're filling up the details and clicking on Submit button. The moment you submit the data, something is happening in the backend. What? Maybe the data is being saved into the database, maybe you're getting an email, whatever it is. That's the backend automation. Correct? Front end is basically what the business users, what the end user will be able to see in the screen, and backend is basically what you don't see, what happens in the backend. Like whenever you click on a button, something should happen. That something should happen part is a backend job, right? So user interface, which is the front end, and backend is the script that we write as a developer to automate the things. Let's understand this MVC architecture. There's a architecture that Salesforce followed called Model View Controller. Understand this architecture, right? Now we know what is front end, what is back end, correct? Front end is what you see, back end is what you don't see, but what it helps to automate things is the back end, right? Salesforce runs on Model View Controller architecture, where the model is whatever standard stuff that you use. Suppose you have objects, suppose you have approval process that you're triggering, you have workflow which you're triggering. Any standard stuff that you use, right, is the model in Salesforce. What is view? View is the user interface. View is the UI, what as an end user you see in your screen. Okay, and what is controller? Controller is the backend logic. Controller is the backend logic that you perform. Now again, all this development or MVC architecture will come into the picture if you find there is a requirement which you cannot fulfill with the standard Salesforce admin features. This is when you have to think about the Salesforce development, and when it comes to development, there's an architecture that Salesforce follow is the MVC, Model View Controller, where the model is nothing but the objects that you use in the backend, or maybe the approval process. Any Salesforce stuff that you use in the backend would be the model. View is basically the user interface. Now there are two kinds of view. Standard view. What do you mean by standard view? Standard view is basically, I want to create a new lead. If I click on this button, this is a standard view. This view I didn't create, I did not code for it. Salesforce created this view for me. That's called standard view. Now, as I said, the requirement could be, let's say, whenever I click on new button, this should not open this page. It should first fetch some data from the legacy CRM, okay, and show the data over here, and then below you should be able to capture the new lead. Now, this is something a custom UI, right? So standard user interface and custom user interface. In Salesforce, we used to create the custom user interface with something called VisualForce. VisualForce was the markup language, kind of HTML markup language, right? Salesforce provided language which we as a developer used to create the custom user interface. But this VisualForce become like old school. Now it has been replaced with Aura component and LWC. Nowadays we don't use VisualForce. We can use, but it's become old school, so it's become backdated. So we use Aura component or Lightning Web component. We will eventually learn VisualForce and Aura component and LWC. Okay, we'll try to cover, but we'll try to focus more on the LWC part because that's the future, right? You as a developer, when it comes to custom development, because that's the upgraded technology, so we have to learn the LWC, and we will make sure that we will become very comfortable with writing the LWC Lightning Web component. So these are the user interfaces that we used to write. And then it comes to controller. Controller means what? Controller is the backend logic, right? By the way, the backend logic you can actually write in Aura component and LWC as well, right? It has the JavaScript controller, but especially when you say controller, which control the business logic, we write the controller in Salesforce with the language called Apex. Apex is a language which is pretty much similar to Java or .NET C#. It's kind of an object-oriented programming language. So if you know Java, .NET or something, you can actually correlate that. The syntaxes are a little bit different, and I would say Apex is very, very much simpler than Java, .NET or any other language, because it's a cloud, right? And most of it that would be using in Apex would be already created by you as a developer. So Apex is a backend language which we would be learning, which will help us to do the backend automations. Okay, so again, just to repeat, model view controller is the architecture that Salesforce is to follow, and where the model is nothing but the object, Apple process, workflow, process builder, whatever you use in the backend. And view is the user interface. Like we have like standard view. Standard view means whenever I click on new button, or let's say you are viewing a particular record, right? And that's a custom view. That's a standard view, right? And the standard view looks like this, and it's not very much configurable, right? It is configurable, you can do till some extent, but not a lot of customization cannot be done in the standard UI. In that situation, what we do is, we as a developer go and write the custom user interface where we can control. Like for an example, let's say we don't want to show the mobile number if you are entering the phone number. Now in the standard page you cannot hide it. What I mean is, let's say you're creating a new lead and you have entered the phone number, and if you enter the phone number, the mobile number should be hidden immediately. If you enter the data, if you don't enter the data, then you have to enter the mobile, and if you enter the mobile data, then let's say phone number would be hidden, that field would be hidden. Now this is something, it is not possible with the standard user interface, right? And you have to go and write a custom user interface. So that user interface is nothing but the view, where we used to write VisualForce. This was the language through which we used to write the custom user interface, but now this has been replaced with like Aura component and LWC. We use Aura and LWC a lot to create the custom UI. Okay, and we will talk about this separately. In this Aura component in LWC, it has the JavaScript controller where we write the business logic, but most of the business logic we write in the Apex. And it is not necessary that every time we will be having the view, the custom view, and then the Apex code. Most of the time what will happen, it is just the Apex, means it is just the automation that we have to perform in the backend. Again, for an example, basically Salesforce is a database and all your automation will be revolving around insert, update and delete, right? So suppose whenever you delete any lead, what should happen is it should go and check in your legacy CRM that is that record exist, Adam, in your legacy CRM. Yes, then go and delete that thing in your legacy CRM first. It will be deleted in the legacy CRM first, then it will come in Salesforce and delete the data. If there is a problem in the legacy CRM, then show the same error message here. Do not allow the user to delete it. If that is the case, then understand this, you have no custom UI requirement here. The requirement is whenever you delete a record, it should go and delete the legacy CRM data first. And then if there is any error, it should show the error message here. If there is no error, then it should be the data should be deleted from the Salesforce lead object. This is a pure backend automations. You do not need to create, you don't have to create any standard or custom UI for it, right? It is just a delete button, right? When you click on delete button, it should go and do this backend automation. This is a pure Apex requirement. There is no a view or UI that has been involved. It is just you have to write an Apex code to do these automations, right? So Apex we use like a lot. 90% of the development we use Apex, where we do a lot of automations through Apex. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about what is Apex basically. Salesforce as a SaaS product, as a software as a service product, it provides its own platform where we as a developer can go and write code. You get it? Because it is a product, we don't have to install any third-party software. We can do it. If in fact we will be doing it. There is something called VS Code, which I'm going to show you how to install VS Code, because when you do this LWC development, you have to have VS Code in place. We will be doing all the development with the VS Code. So we will learn that part when you do the LWC, but normally for the Apex development, what we use is the Lightning platform, is the force.com platform, and that's the platform. This platform allows us as a developer to go and write any code you want. So you as a developer do not have to install, download any third-party software to write the code, to deploy the code, to test the code. Everything can be done in this particular platform. Got it? And that's the reason why Salesforce is not only a SaaS product, software as a service product, but also it gives us the platform as a service PaaS. And the platform is nothing but this particular platform that we'll be exploring. Okay, so we will see in the next video how can we explore this platform to write the Apex development or write any coding. All right. And once we learn the Apex part, we will go and explore the LWC, where I'm going to teach you how can you use the VS Code to do all sort of development. Okay, see you in the next video.